Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun. Good morning, everybody. Man. Excuse me, my mouth was still full of stuff. All right, well, we had a pretty positive update yesterday after we left. I mean, it was going pretty good when we stopped trading yesterday. I actually turned around and took a long for the heck of it, and it worked out. But the up move going into the close was amazing. Let's go look. So yeah, we kind of had this stuff up in here was kind of where we were spending a lot of our time. But then going into the close, pretty positive. Didn't completely retrace this down move, but we got up there. Overnight session, they're trying. They're not getting over this, but then some PMI numbers come around. So today you get all of the PMI numbers from all of the countries, and they weren't very good. I mean, they weren't awful. Couple points, but they weren't very good. So we started falling down. Now in the last 30 minutes while I've been eating, because I'm just barely coming here and looking at the charts. Pretty strong down move there, okay? Which is a little scary because below this 3350 area here, if we spend too much time there, then this can turn into a real bender. And if this breaks a new low, oh my gosh, look out. Okay, treasuries higher again. So even after all this noise that, if things could increase rates and that was causing fear in the markets, when the fear actually comes into the markets, the treasuries trade up. Oil had a really weird turn yesterday, but here today, they're down. And watch we should keep an eye on oil, because every time that oil is down, the E-mini is down big. That oil exacerbates any kind of move in equities, right? Gold, once again down. Once again down. That's the way it's going. Copper down. I mean, I had this strong up move. They're not able to hold 3. Possible turn, but there's this whole thing. Yeah. Anyways, when we had this, it was a concerning, right? So maybe no big deal. We're getting some Canadian news here down at the bottom of the hour, but house index, retail sales, so forth. I don't know if it'll be a huge deal. The Canadian numbers usually don't matter a whole lot. Should also keep an eye on the dollar, because here we can see the dollar moving higher over yesterday. Pretty bearish. And you can see over here with my indicator that we are very negative. That said, we're maybe a little bit too negative. So come back over here. Say Cortez says, good afternoon from EU. Well, welcome to the stream. Thank you for saying hi. We'll start our text to speech so that when you guys say something, I will hear it read out to me. Well, this puts us in an interesting predicament. Not so sure that I can really go with any of the momentum right now. I'm also concerned that we might have a really tight market until the E-mini open. Also, there is a tendency for those equity traders to just like completely ignore news. And you know how it is, right? But then also we got the PMIs 15 minutes after uh the equities open. So I don't know if it makes a lot of tactical sense for me to be taking a really risky trade right now because I'm really tempted to just take it short right here. Um, I mean, it's kind of turning that way, but if I take it short, it's where the downside that we've been taking here is a little on the excessive side. So there's good chances of, pushes back up to maybe 33.68 area. So it's probably, if I want to go short, it's probably better to wait it come up to 33.68.
Hans Gunther says, hey baby Yoda grin.
Yeah, you see it. A lot of people don't even notice it, which I think is hilarious.
Maxwell Silver says, good morning. Driving to work. Hope to get back to trading soon.
Oh, you have to drive into work now? Man, that sucks. I'm still at home. I don't know if they're ever gonna make me come back to the office, to be honest with you. It's got the guy in the news squawk is yapping in my ear about Canadian retail sales, and I just don't care. Okay, Mohammed El Rain, Eurozone August PMIs provide further confirmation that the shape of the global economic recovery is less of a V and more of a lopsided square root. In the first PMI downturn since April, services came in at 51.6 versus a consensus expectation of 55.
Hans Gunther says, same with me in
Yeah,
office.
yeah. I don't know if they're ever going to make us come back. It's a really interesting. I don't think that you could set up a more interesting, unexpected, and disruptive dynamic class-wise. Because what's happened in the past, couple of decades is that the United States has promoted services over manufacturing. So basically, you get all of the what I don't know, I guess what they call white collar workers, right? All the white collar workers, a lot of us, we haven't been out of work or anything. We just keep working through the pandemic. My company, we just worked through the pandemic and nothing has changed. And I don't know if we're more productive or less, but a lot of companies have been reporting that they're more productive. But then if you're blue collar, you've been shut down. You're not allowed to work. You know, so not only do you get this situation where the people that were doing well end up doing even better during the pandemic. But you're going to have now you got this cultural change too, where it's like going forward, more of those white collar workers are just staying home all the time. That's gonna well, that kind of bothers me because that's gonna lead to some significant differences in worldview between those two groups of people. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's weird. I'm I don't know if they're ever going to make us come back. They haven't said anything about it. Let's see here. Rabobank. Bloomberg today has an op ed from Mike Bloomberg. Don't rehire a failed president, which begins, I never been much for partisan politics. Oh come on, Bloomberg. Didn't Mr. Bloomberg just run for president against the incumbent as a Democrat? Come on. Yeah, that's funny. That is kind of funny. Mm, Okay, so far the E-mini continues its recovery. See, now here's going to come the issue is like, when we come to 33.68, and then it's going to be, do I take it short there? Or are we going to recover? Are we going to come up further, like 75, 87? The equity market is just going to try and completely ignore it. And then maybe we get the PMIs. Maybe if our PMIs are bad, maybe our PMIs will be good. You know what? If our PMIs were good, ooh, that would be a lot of chaos because that would be beneficial for the dollar. But I also think that the equity markets would want to buy on it. That would lead to some interesting and probably confusing correlations. So we should think about that a little bit. Oh wow, and I'm hearing over the news squawk right now that they are sending warplanes to the Mediterranean. So apparently, the European Union is willing to use military force to enforce their um, how do you put it, um, regulations against drilling in the Mediterranean.
Ishay Almali says good morning traders.
Hey, good morning. How are you? Welcome back. Well, I don't know. It's pretty quiet. It is pretty quiet. We're just gonna have to sit here. Hold on a second. I gotta drink some water and blow my nose and stuff.
Ishay Almali says there is a good possibility of short trade from the open. Vlad Stolyarov says markets still bearish. Lol, yesterday rally was just a fake retracement in SPY if first 2 hours makes new high and drops W weakness. Vlad Stolyarov says early high.
Well, I would be careful about calling it fake. You know, I think
Ishay
that they're
Almali says longs are stuck.
those retail traders yesterday it was manic. It was manic when they're trading well above the stops. So let's think of it. Let me try and give you a window into how I'm viewing trading right now. Let's say that we have a limited number of participants in the market. Okay, there's 100 people, and 50 of them are long and 50 of them are short. And something happens that makes the people that are short decide that they don't want to be short anymore. Then we would expect price to move up, and the tendency is that it will just continue to move up until all of the shorts have gotten out, right? Now, at that point, all you have left is longs, right? And if none of those other people have taken other positions, you've just got 50 guys long. So what's going to happen, right? Probably it's going to have to come down as those longs take profits, or new participants enter into the market, right? So when I look at my charts, that dotted line, to me, that blue dotted line, well, this orange dotted line, let's look at it yesterday. This orange dotted line is, to me, that's when basically everybody that has been in the market and is short is losing money. Okay. So you'll often see like a stop out above that, right? But here's the thing, right? For them to continue to push even further after that, you've got to have new participants. So I say that for them to trade the way that they did yesterday, there had to have been a lot of retail players watching how good it was, saying, "Oh, here's the dip," and FOMOing into trades, basically. Even though it's really, really excessive. Similarly, on this side, I think that you have to be saying it's a similar sort of a thing. Now, I think that this one right here was really currency driven, right? I mean, when we come over here and we look at it like that last little drop, dollar really strengthened there, right? So that's probably a big part of it too. You know, there's always a couple of different things that can move people. But you get what I mean? So like I'm hesitant to say that yesterday's action was like fake because I mean people traded it, people had reasons to get in, whether their reasons were good ideas or not, right?
Ishay Almali says true. Yet, retail traders panic faster. All it takes is a little air off the FANG stocks and we will get into dumpage mod.
For sure. Now, here's another thing to consider, guys. Yeah, fake in terms of highs didn't hold. I get you, Vlad. Now, here's another thing that we need to consider. There is a lot of gamma on this thing. And the gamma flips somewhere around 33.45. So, which we're not too far off from, and especially if our PMI numbers ended up being bad as well, we could certainly see that number, right? But we should be careful not to just only see the one scenario, right? Because the other scenario is that because of that, they're likely to hold that area. The probability really is that the gamma keeps us constrained, prevents us from moving too far, because people come in and basically when it starts moving one way, they hedge their gamma by trading the opposite direction, and that decreases the amount that it can actually end up moving. So yeah, it's kind of I think it's kind of a difficult trade right here because in my mind I'm kind of I feel I'm feeling it with you. Yes, right? Like I mean, I didn't lose money yesterday, but I was frustrated. I was like they're not doing what they should. This is not smart. This looks like like poorly thought out trade, you know? I think that they should be more cautious here. I think that maybe we're up too high and I would like to see some more downside, you know? So, if they were to go down to 33.45 and then just, careen out there, man, I think that would get me really excited. I think that would get me really excited. But I know that it's more complicated than that and that it might not work out the way that I want it to, you know? You know?
Vlad Stolyarov says I believe they do everything upside down, holding up large cap stocks, exiting smaller blue chip stocks.
Hmm.
Martin Holmstrom says there were tons of big traders buying yesterday PM session in superfast algos. How could that be retail driven?
Well, that's a really good point. You're correct. There was some points at which there was some signs of significant sorry. The squawk started talking again. There was some indications of significant institutional activity at certain points. After, they had that initial move up and there was kind of a little bit of down movement. And then when they started going up again, I started to see a lot of big orders. So that there's probably was some institutions in there. But I mean, I don't know, man. How does Tesla get over 2000 with the institutions? Because the institutions aren't driving that one, man. They hate it. If anything, they're going short on that one. You know? After 11 a.m., it becomes a FOMO with no reversals. Yeah. I don't know. It could.
Ace Trades says I'm sorry the market isn't doing what you want it to. Lol.
I know, right? The thing that so I think that kind of ends up being the disadvantage to the way that I trade is that with the way that I trade, it's about trying to be more informed than everybody else, and that means that you end up with an opinion. And sometimes the market doesn't agree with your opinion. But that just means that you have to really really focus on the short-term drivers, right? What is driving money flow right now? That's why at the very beginning I said all of those things, right? I was like, well, what we have is excessive. We're likely to come back up to 33.68. We did. I wasn't willing to take that trade because I know that it's probably going to be slow and that, like, why would an institution be moving a ton of money at this moment? Because you get, 45 minutes E-mini open, 15 minutes after that, PMIs are significant. They're going to, I think that they're going to be hesitant to be putting a lot of money at risk right now. So, hey, you get a retracement. I guess we could have traded that, but from my perspective, it's a little sketch, right?
Ishay Almali says the institution is waiting for confirmation. Retail just jumps head first.
Okay, so this is a good thought.
Dan H says I thought the idea of the jigsaw DOM was to just trade the current action.
So, I think that is the intention, or at least what Jigsaw will tell you. I how do I say? I have basically come to the conclusion of like throwing off almost all technical indicators is kind of where I'm at. So here's a problem that I have with some of what I hear, Pete. I'm gonna criticize Pete a little bit here. So before I do that, I want to put the disclaimer out there. I really like him. Okay. Even though he's been an asshole to me at points and he's a ruthless businessman, I still really like him. All right. But he will say, you don't want to trade technical indicators because those are all lagging. And you don't want to trade anything that's lagging. You trade the DOM because that's not lagging. But in my opinion, it's like it is lagging. Like as soon as you see something happen, it's in the past, right? As soon as you see it, it's in the past. So if past performance is not indicative of future results, then the entire idea that I see an iceberg here or I see a a spot to catch the edge here has no bearing on whether it will actually move up or down from here. That's because that's the way that I'm trying to trade. The way that I'm trying to trade is absolutely no technical analysis, which means I cannot use past price actions to determine what's going to happen in the future. Right? So then at that point, then your question is probably going to be, so why even use the DOM? And my argument is that it's an execution edge that you're looking for, right? I can place my orders and I can manage my trade, especially during quick action, more easily with the DOM than anything else. And the tools that they give you for a retail trader are the best in terms of being able to manage your position. And the information that it gives you about the current conditions gives you better information about which prices to try and trade. Right? So I don't use it in the idea of just watch the DOM and look for the current action and see some sort of a signal and trade it based off of that. I don't do that. I haven't been doing that this summer, and I've had a lot of success with it so far. But let's see what happens in September, right?
Ishay Almali says even price is past. It's just an advertising mechanism. We use lagging data all the time.
So this is the key gotcha that I got to point out here. Just because past data, past market generated data cannot predict the future doesn't mean that that data is useless, right? The current conditions matter. The current conditions cannot predict what will happen in the future, but if I have a way to predict what is going to happen in the future, I'm going to have to consider what the current conditions are as well. For instance, we're trading along here, and let's say that we're at a similar spot when the US PMIs are released. Okay? What does that tell me about the current conditions? It tells me that we are positioned short. We're positioned short. There's probably a good number of market makers that are long, but overall, the market will be positioned short. So if those PMI numbers come out and they're bad, and maybe they're just only slightly bad, should I be coming out and like selling every contract that I have on an anticipation of them going below 33.45 and just absolutely getting destroyed and so forth? Not necessarily, because I know that the current market condition is a lot of people are already short. Makes sense? So the current conditions matter. You have to factor in the current conditions, but the current conditions on their own can't predict what's going to happen. If I get a piece of news, then I can set up situations where I have a really good probability of predicting what's going to happen. And once I factor in the current conditions, then that's when you get the really great trades that just, I can write it for like 10 points. Does that make sense? But that still means that past market generated data can't predict the future. Usually. Maybe there are some situations where we can really accurately predict, but I think that they're very limited.
Sam T says TSLA is also being held significantly by mutual funds, ESG funds. It's both FOMO traders institutions. Calls puts are expensive as well. Won't end well emo, too crowded of a stock with crazy valuation.
Well, the point that the options are really expensive is a really good observation, right? Because there's been a lot of options shenanigans over in Tesla in particular. And it's, you're talking about, $50,000 to put it to even buy one, it's pretty bad.
Ishay Almali says correct. Price action is the key. Is the pullback strong? Are we above the open? Below the open? Are at yesterday's high? Low? That's what everybody see even if you use 5, 10, 30 minutes chart.
I mean, I think that that's a legitimate view, and I think that that's probably the majority view, Ishay, but when you say that, it makes me think that you don't understand what I'm saying, because everything that you're talking about was past action. So that'll tell me conditions, but none of that information can predict what's going to happen next. You could go in and you could sit down and you could say, okay, when we are moving up and we have a pullback and the pullback is like this, then we have an X% chance that we're going to continue up again. You can do that all you want. It won't actually tell you if that's what it's going to do this time. It could change. Maybe we start tracking that. We keep tracking that in a month. It might fail every time, and the probability that you get is completely different now. And says maybe you should actually, maybe that's actually going to be a short. You know what I mean? So that's why I say it's not predictive. So when I say predictive, I mean like there is something about that situation that forces a high probability of a certain outcome. Right? If we got news that Congress just brokered a deal to pass stimulus, and part of the deal included twice the amount of bonus checks that the market was expecting, what do you think will happen? Right? I don't. You all know, right? You all know what would happen if that. Excuse me, man. You all know what would happen if that news hit. It's a no-brainer, right? The instant that piece of news hits, before the market does anything, you know with like 98% certainty what's going to happen. The market's going to move up. That's predictive. That's predictive. The market, it practically has to. You know? So that's what I'm getting at.
Sunday Driver says happy Joe Biden Friday.
Jeez.
Vlad Stolyarov says May 9, 2010 flash crash had no previous historic drops like that. So let's say we get a day like that, dip, buyers start averaging down, prices drop minus 0.5%, then 1%, then 9%, then Kramer say it's not real.
Sunday Driver
Sure.
says Tesla will be a $5 stock again.
Maybe.
Vlad Stolyarov says 40-point move on average.
So here's, you know what, I need to do more research on this. Tesla split dates, because I think that there's a date, and I believe that that is today. Yes, that's correct. The split takes effect on August 31st for each shareholder of record on August 21st. Answer me this. Why would anybody buy a share of Tesla next week? Certainly no investor would. Yeah. If I had options that, I would be, looking for them to make money today and expire. Because after today, no reason to buy Tesla, right? No reason to buy Tesla. Now, will it be a $5 stock again? I don't know. But I'm kind of like, I remember when it was $500 and watching some things, people saying, based on their balance sheet and everything, this is really what it should be worth. And I thought that their analysis was pretty good. So let's just say, because I'm not like a super big expert on analyzing stocks, but let's just go with what they were saying and say $500 is fair. That's a 60% drop from where we are right now, right? So I do think that in September, there's a really good chance that Tesla will be trading lower than they are today. Yeah. Hold on. And yeah, that downturn will probably begin after today. Because what you're going to see today, a lot of people are going to be freaking out trying to get in today because this is the last chance to get in and still get in on the split. But then after today, then price is probably going to fall. So then we'll see where we're at when the split happens, and then there might be a little bit of trade after the split, and then maybe we really get the true like down move in Tesla, right?
Ishay Almali says so. Seth, you think markers are completely random?
No, I don't. I think that for almost every major move that you see in markets, I think that you could probably come up with a fundamental reason to explain why that move occurred. But that in most cases, you simply don't have the resources, and it's not worth your effort to try and figure out why. But I think that there could be situations where you could 100% know exactly why it's moving. But for our purposes, it might as well be random, huh? I think the thing is it's not like when you think random, you think like Gaussian noise, right? But if it was Gaussian noise, there are strategies that you could take advantage of to make very, very consistent money in the markets, right? So it's never random. It's a different kind of random. It's a kind of random that will basically always eliminate any kind of statistical edge that you can mine from it. Yeah? That's the crazy thing about it. Because if you find an inefficiency in the market, you start trading it, you reduce that efficiency in the market until it's completely gone. And then really it turns into a race for who can get to that market inefficiency first. That's my outlook, at least. But to me, when I say, I wait for something that's actually predictive, and so I'm looking for things that are outside of market data, that kind of means that I don't think that the market action is random at all, do I? It's quite the opposite.
Live action says I would always think of where initiative would occur.
Yeah. Well, think about this scenario that we have laid out right now. Like we know the spots, don't we? We kind of know the spots that matter. Um, we're just waiting for a situation where we really have a really high probability of explaining what's going to happen. So I'm wondering, I mean, that downturn right there, I suppose we could have taken it short. I think it's maybe a little bit too late to take that one now. I would say so far it's moving pretty good. I thought that yeah, we could get a retrace back to 68. I wasn't sure at the time, so I didn't take it. But then I thought after that it would probably not go anywhere. Well, 3 points back down is not anywhere. Is not nowhere.
Live action says yes, and you will see higher volume on your ladder depth at those spots.
Sure. Or rather after we get to that spot, then you should see the volume. Yeah. Because that's another one that I've found can be a trap. Is like we say, okay, like if we come back down, I don't know if they'll make a new low, but I know that there's this area right here, right? But I don't want to wait for it to get down there and then get into a trade, right? I got to know where it's going to go to. I want to be taking the trade before the volume, shows up. And conversely, if I'm sitting down and saying, I think that this is the spot where I want to go short from, um, do you want to do it? That's where it gets kind of shaky because how do I explain what I'm trying to say? If I'm looking for an entry, I'm in a spot and I'm like, I know that there's going to be a lot of trade in this spot, then that's where I feel like entries get difficult for me, right? Because I want to be like, I want to get the best spot possible. So I don't necessarily want to trade it where everybody else is trading it. You know what I mean?
Live action says one thing I like about TT is it tells you how many orders are at those spots, or is it one guy that could lift?
Yeah. I really want to get the market by um order data. I want like a picture that would be like it would show you. I mean, how could I draw this? The problem is that I think in a lot of instruments, what you would want to look would have to be so fine detailed. Oh, we don't need CT anymore. Let's get rid of that. That I don't know if you could really draw it without making it huge, but I would like to see like for every order a little box, you know, big, and there'd be like stripes like this, and then it would color each block differently based on how long it's been there for. So if somebody comes along and puts some big order here on top of things, I know that that's one big order and it hasn't been there for very long. So maybe I don't factor it in as much or something, you know. And see all of those at every spot, and then once you watch it a little bit and see what you can gain from that, and then maybe, you know, do some statistical analysis on that. I'd really like to do that. I really like to see that with market by order data. It'd be really complicated. I don't think that it would be especially performant, but it'd be super cool. It'd be super cool. I want market by order data for something else, but it'd be interesting.
Sunday Driver says there's nothing random in the market. Ever.
Vlad Stolyarov says I want Makret to open and make early high then roll if bearish. Vlad Stolyarov says it's only according to my specific counter trend strategy. Vlad Stolyarov says otherwise I don't take short.
Yeah.
Live Action says Jigsaw has a toll on your DOM showing lifted orders.
You can see when it lifts how much it is. I tend to look at it like use my tape and see if an order pulled off there is how I tend to look at it. I haven't been getting I haven't heard any clicks, have I?
Vlad Stolyarov says the way NQ moves down on big volume is super fast so that can be chased.
Sunday Driver says market players would split orders and deliberately confuse your box order analysis.
Yeah, they probably would. I don't know if doing it that way would necessarily make huge edge, but I think the thing would be is even if they split them up, you would still be able to see.
Martin Holmstrom says is the news feed on Jigsaw useful?
Significantly after. I'd say yes, Martin. So here it is right here. I'll show you. So there's the one for economic releases. I honestly don't put up the other one, but I will show you guys. I'll make one and show you. So here's their news feed. So I don't bother with this one.
Sunday Driver says have you ever analyzed dark pools?
Kind of. So I've never gone and after the fact look at the transactions that happened in the dark pool and try to make some certain determination about what's happened. No, I don't do that. But, you know, I worked for them when they created the dark pools, so I know quite a bit about how it works. I guess that's another reason why it's like, you know, the thing that really led me to my current market view was really more of the idea that I don't want to follow other people. I only care what other people are doing because I have to transact with other people in order to get my position. And that's the only reason that I care. So if somebody did some transaction in some dark pool, to me it's like I don't care. What I care is, you know, there's a reason for this instrument to move in this direction. And if I'm doing my job correctly, I will be able to predict what people are going to do in the dark pool without ever seeing it, you know?
Live Action says Seth why not leave news feed and or eco calendar up? Could be helpful on video reviews.
Well, I mean, I always have it back here. Part of the reason why I leave it down is because I feel like that is part of the edge that Jigsaw is giving you, and that if I was showing that to you guys all the time, that it would be like giving away their edge for free, and that wouldn't be okay. So that's part of the reason why I hide it. And the other reason is that there's just so much other stuff that I would like we'd like to be able to see. So. So they made it back to 3373. And this sets up a different situation because now it looks like we have a good chance of opening up in the E-mini in a relatively balanced situation.
Gary Rich says don't follow people. You make me laugh so hard.
Okay. Then follow other people if you want, Gary. My philosophy is they should be following me. You ever watched this hold on. Oh, I forgot about that. The Postmaster General is testifying in Congress today. I do, and they teach me more. Well, so I guess let me classify what I'm talking about. I don't want to follow other people's trades. I don't want to take a trade because somebody else is taking it. Right? Don't care. It is a lie that the key to making money in the market is to find somebody that's really good and knows what they're doing and just follow them. It doesn't work that way. You can't derive your edge from somebody else. Hey, Def Pluto, how's it going? That doesn't mean that you can't learn from other people. That's true. You can, follow other people and learn a bunch of things about their methods and things that they're considering into their analysis that you weren't. That's useful. But you don't follow their trades. That's when I say follow, I mean taking a trade because somebody else is. Excuse me. Or trying to duplicate their strategy verbatim. Right. So there's a documentary I'm sure that a lot of you guys have watched. Have you seen this one? It's like I think the trader's nickname is Mad Dog. He was an Australian fixed income trader. Trades there at the the Lifey or whatever. You seen that documentary? It's pretty old now. But at the beginning of the movie, they talk about they're like, some people will try, are people that know what they're doing and do really good. And then there's a lot of other people that just watch what that guy is doing and try and copy their trades. And basically what ends up happening is that guy, Mad Dog, he does really, really well because he has the edge. And all of the people that are trying to follow him, sometimes they do well, but sometimes they don't. And the one that really ends up being consistent and on top of their game all the time is the guy that everybody follows. And my whole question is, why don't you want to be the guy that just knows what he's doing? I just abhor this idea that you don't have to know what's going on. You just see other people taking the trade on the tape and then you can copy them and make money. I've tried doing that. What I understand about the market today tells me that in the long run that doesn't work. You want to be the one that knows what's going on. You want to be the one that other people are trying to copy. And you got to be good enough at it that they can't actually copy you.
Sunday Driver says you are moving towards a trading style like mine. It's not day to day, but long-term trend analysis. Being ahead is easy, but the timing of how far ahead you are is difficult.
Well, I'm starting to look at it as like the sorts of things that would make me trade on a longer term basis are the same things that will make me trade on a short term basis. I come in and I see a certain piece of news that changes my expectations of the future, and then I take a trade based on short term risk management principles rather than long term risk management principles. And so the sorts of things that are going to trigger me into a position are exactly the same. That makes a lot more sense then at that point because it's expandable, right? If you start making more money and you want to hold longer positions, nothing changes. You just hold your positions longer and change your risk management. But the actual strategy itself doesn't change because it's still based off of analyzing the market and taking advantage of trading inefficiencies and current situations when they occur.
Martin Holmstrom says, I don't want to be a product of my environment, I want my environment to be a product of me. Jack Nicholson in The Departed smiley face.
Exactly. That's exactly how I think of it.
Vlad Stolyarov says, yeah, if their trade works, good. Your own psychology of taking trades need to agree with yourself. Vlad Stolyarov says, funny thing is my bias changes during time I am not in trade, but if I enter a loser I hold my bias BC, it's my trade. Gary Rich says, Seth, you only trade 2 hours a day, not full time. That's why you hate everything.
I don't hate everything, but I do only trade like 2. Well, I guess it's more like 3 hours a day. You know what? Like, honestly, 3 hours a day is like, if I was going to start taking longer term trades, I would have to change a couple of things. Not necessarily the way that this strategy works, but like, I don't know. That would be a big toll, because by the time I'm done with this at the end of 3 hours, I'm usually spent. Streaming is probably a component of it. But even when I sit and I don't have a whole lot of work going on, I'm waiting on somebody. And so I'll just sit there and watch the market, or I'll take a really, sim trade or whatever. And just sitting there and watching it sometimes just I just find just it exhausting. I find it exhausting.
Sunday Driver says, are you not still following? Just following headlines.
Well, so that's a good point. So there's always going to, there's always going to have to be some piece of data that you're getting from somewhere, isn't there? But I think that it's more than just, looking at a piece of news. That's where it's like, we could get the same piece of news, but because I might understand more about the market, I'm going to make a different decision and end up doing better in the long run because of that. But this is kind of where there's this interesting dynamic of like, I don't think this is why I was always making this distinction. So this is a really weird. This is like getting like way too deep into the weeds, but I'm going to do it anyways. There is a disagreement amongst the technical analysis haters as to why technical analysis doesn't work. Hold on. So if you talk to Gary Norton, for instance, his thing that he's always going to tell you is that it's past data. And so making decisions off of past data is you're never going to be able to derive edge from it. But then he also says that you can use the order book and trade off of that, and that's like a technical edge well, he wouldn't call it a technical edge, but he would basically say that order flow trading is not technical analysis, right? But I say that when you see somebody pull, or you see a certain amount of volume trade there, or whatever, however it is that he does it, that's past information. It's past information, as far as I can tell. So I don't agree with his take on that. So that's why the differentiation that I make, I think that what makes it technical is that you're analyzing the data generated by the market itself, right? You're looking at people taking trades, and the output of that is what you trade your strategy off of. And in my opinion, that's what makes something technical analysis. And that's why technical analysis tends not to work, because the current data that you're getting back out of the market is really just the market factoring in these other factors. And it's not like a two-way translation. You can't look at the market and say, okay, this is what was driving it. You have to be able to see what the market outputted and see what was being input into the market in the form of fundamental analysis and everything to even understand why it was doing what it was doing. Right? So then I go and I take, if I take those actual fundamental things, and you'll still factor in the current situation from technical analysis, but I'm also going to take in the economic numbers and the money flows and breaking news and whatever else it is that you can pull into it, and make my own decision about whether I think that that asset is going to go up or down based on those fundamentals. You know? And then that's not really trading technical analysis. So.
Live Action says, I love it. I study every incremental move and true to attach a logical reason. I also cover a lot of different contracts, keeps me busy.
Oh yeah. I think live action that you want to specialize in a market, like maybe you want to trade one market, but that you want to know what's going on in all of the other markets. Like a good example, oil, man. What, by the way, where's oil at? Because I don't have one that I can see all the time. I'm gonna bet that. Well, okay, so oil is down a little bit. We're recovering in the E-mini, but oil is still down. Oil has had a really big impact on the equities markets, right? When oil was like a disaster, that had a huge impact on the equities markets. If you didn't understand what the deal was with oil, then you're kind of in the dark. Okay.
Sam T says, Seth, do you trade futures in overnight sessions? Easy scalps, but volumes are low and they move like a turtle. Very slow market in overnight. S is a bit better than NQ.
Not unless there's a piece of news that's so significant that it provides a lot of opportunity. No, Gary.
Gary Rich says, Seth, just do cocaine with meth and you will have tons of energy. Take Adderall for focus and concentration. It works.
No. I do take Adderall because I'm ADHD though. And it does make a big difference. More
Vlad
so in your
Stolyarov
ability
says
to
AAPL high volumes from 8 a.m. Vlad Stolyarov says, so waiting for opening to see if there's any big sellers.
Yeah.
Sam T says, nice live action. Same here.
Nothing drives me crazy more than when retail traders tell me I intentionally don't look at news. Like, looking at news ruins my edge. That news is bad, and that you'll make bad decisions if you just trade news. It's like, listen, sometimes you'll get a headline. News will say X thing. And if you just trade the gut reaction off of that, you might have a hard time, because you have to be able to analyze the news too. You have to be able to say, oh, well, we already know that. You have to be able to know that in certain situation that the headline that they're posting out doesn't make much sense, or that there's probably other key factors that would have to be considered before I can make a trade from it. More you understand about the market and more experience that you have, the better equipped you are to actually analyze that news. And I think that what happens, excuse me, I'm getting hiccups and burps and stuff from I don't know, I ate too fast or something. I have a theory. I think that equity traders in particular, the equity day traders, are more likely to think that you shouldn't trade off of news or fundamentals. And I think the reason that they think that is because if you're talking about stocks, when you're really successful with stocks, generally it's going to be the situation where you've caught an instrument that is doing something unusual compared to the rest of the market, like if the market went up point 0.5, like no big deal. But if you got into the one that went up 10% that day, then that's really good, right? And if you're trading it off of the news, unless you have a Bloomberg terminal, you're probably not going to be first to that data. So in order to get in early enough, you have to be looking for some sort of they use these stock scanner things, right? And so they have this tendency to think that the news doesn't matter. Whereas us in futures, when we're trading like an index, you know, in order to move the whole index, you have to have like fundamental changes, right? And so I think that you would get a better idea of how the news trades. But I suspect that that's why a lot of equities traders don't like the news, even though if they really had, I mean, this is why I just don't day trade stocks, is because I don't feel like that I um, get enough of that data to actually trade it that way. Like these guys, these specialists that trade the stocks, that are like the market makers for the stocks, paid by the exchange to be the market maker for the stock and everything else like that. They have fundamental data. Like they have these models that know all of the assets that the company has and all of the factors that influence how much money that company makes. And it's constantly calculate, like the amount of data that they have is insane. You can't compete with that. You're, you know, but I think that that's why I think that that's where that comes. Nothing drives me crazy more than when people are like, "Oh, don't trade news," because I'm looking at it and I'm like, you know what? I've been doing nothing but trading news, and I've been doing better than I ever have. Now it's an easy market, so let's continue the experiment. But it seems to me the markets move based off of changes in future expectations. And if you're not factoring that into your trading, you're going to have inconsistent results. Mhm.
Sunday Driver says trading on news is bad unless you are anticipating the news and position yourself ahead of it.
Well, no, I think that in a situation like that if the whole market gets a piece of news at the same time, then yeah, it's like really it's going to be hard for you to generate an edge out of that. But then your edge is going to be understanding the situation better than other people, so that you're going to know the situation where everybody thinks that that's a good thing, but actually it's not a good thing, right? And you can take the counter trade or whatever it is. And because on some of the biggest, most you know Federal Reserve just announced quantitative easing. The first time that happened, the market sold. What a bunch of idiots! If you understood the impact that monetary stimulus was going to have, you bought. That was the best trade of all time, right?
Live Action says I've caught some monster moves watching news. Some say you will be always late, but I have found at times it takes time for the market to catch up to the news.
Oh, totally.
Sam T says yep, major news only. Those 20 to 30 moves are just noise and machine-driven, programmed. Vlad Stolyarov says I hate AAPL now, it ruins shorts. Vlad Stolyarov says I am biased to short after the split now. Gary Rich says at Live, have you looked at DTN IQ feed for data? Considering going with them.
So if you guys recall, at the end of the spring, we tried IQ feed. So I could say a couple of things about them. First of all, the like if you when you sign up, you'll get like a sales guy and everything. But the guy that I talked to was like so useful. Like seriously, they were great. I thought that they were really great. So like the support and stuff that you get from them is top notch. And the quality of the data feed was really good. The issue that I had with IQ feed was that they have like a separate process that pulls the data in and then it goes into your application. And that application had some sort of strange processing um, prioritization stuff going on that disrupted everything else on my system. So it might not matter to most of you guys, but for me, when I was streaming, it would cause OBS to drop frames. So that's why I didn't, why I kind of forgot about IQ feed. The other thing is that IQ feed is like, you can spend a ton on it, right? Because if once you start paying for each little, I want the VIX, I want this index, and I want stocks, and it all adds up. So, but there was a lot of things I liked about it. Okay, so there's the open or up a little bit. I've been talking a lot, and I have drunk all my water. I don't know why I've been doing that because it used to be that one bottle would last me the whole session. But I'm gonna go and get some water. All right. Okay, we're back.
Vlad Stolyarov says two's waiting for chart date. Another fun day.
Okay. Man, all week, huh? That's crazy. Okay, well, I'd say market looks pretty balanced here. Maybe leaning long.
RJ Wheels says leaning long based on what?
Just their location. So right now they're right in the middle of where I would consider to be basically where they are compared to the calculated cost bases that I have. Says that they're balanced, but I do see some buying. So it is possible that if they move up a little bit, that we could interpret that as a long bias going into the news. But for now, they're hanging out in this area. It's all good. If we really wanted to try and front run the news, we could take it right there. But oh, whoops! I'm gonna scratch out of this. So I screwed up on something. Did it on the wrong one. Okay. Okay. I probably missed that one. We could also look at it compared to the open. Hmm?
Live Action says Seth, why don't you use Globix Volume 2? You're always in the middle. You have the footprint tool for the here and now.
Um. So the reason is because I didn't find it to really matter to the volume profile that in the end the regular session volume ends up being so significant that whatever you had in the overnight profile doesn't really show up or matter on your DOM. And I wanted to see all of the stuff reset. So if I don't set it to the regular session, then it doesn't reset to show me that this is the regular session range, right? I would still see this, that this is where it was in the overnight and that. And I don't I want to see it the way that it is right now. So I prefer that everything resets on the regular session. I've just found that so much volume comes through on the regular session that it's worth just resetting everything. Mm, mm, mm. Hmm. Well, for now they seem to be fading. They would need to go down a little bit. They'd need to be like below 72 for me to be like, oh yeah, that's like negative. Treasury's coming down pretty aggressively. Oh, I left my water. Hold on.
Live Action says okay, I know someone who owns a brokerage thinks like that. Live Action says but when I break range I need a reference point other than air.
Yeah. Well, if I was looking for a reference point like that, I would come over here to my volume profile and look at the mini right there, and that'll show me the overnight. But when I'm trading it, to me, I care more that it's hitting a new regular session high than I do that how much volume traded there overnight. DeJoy, I will not return decommissioned mill sorting machines before the election. Okay. Okay, so for manufacturing, we're looking for 51.9, and for services, we're looking for 51. Try this again. Mhm. Zoom in here a bit. Okay, here it comes. And sure enough, it's long. Just going to try and take a lot of risk on this one.
Live
Is that
Action
going to
says
cause
wow
some
6E
weakness
pretty
in
weak.
the 6E? So remember earlier we were saying that we could get some confusing setups here because this is good for the E-mini, but it's also good for the dollar. Probably an easier setup would be to go short gold, right? Gold's not reacting that much to it. I think you go short gold here. So I kind of thought, so the thing is the US has been open longer. So I kind of thought, just because everybody else's PMIs were bad doesn't mean that the US's is going to be. And people wouldn't be buying it ahead of it if they had really good reason to think that it was going to be super bad. That's why I was willing. I don't know if that was. I mean, that wasn't a live trade. I don't know if that was a live trade. If I would have been willing to put on that risk, but um, with this, I knew it was a situation where it could get a good trade, so I was willing to put on a little bit. Now that said, we got a good up move, but it hasn't been like extreme up yet. So I might try wrangling something around here a little bit.
Vlad Stolyarov says people just want round numbers. NVDA
Yeah.
almost 500.
You hear Kramer the other day saying like, if there's a pullback in Nvidia, you have to buy it. It's like, wow.
Vlad Stolyarov says it's psychology mostly, no economic data matters.
I was like, I can't believe that he would say give an endorsement that strong on Nvidia. But at least he acknowledges that, it's difficult to get a super comfortable price. Okay, so if this goes our way, the next thing I'm thinking tactically, aside from the fact that there could be some trouble with the dollar and in treasuries and all of that, is everybody's going to want to be long now, right? Like everybody was looking long anyways. The gamma was long, and they've got these spots like 3,400, for instance, that they would really like to get to. I remember telling a friend yesterday, like, I don't think at this point that anybody is thinking they're just going to get it on the open and go short. But we'll see what happens overnight. And then we came overnight, all the PMIs were bad. So then there was some concern. But I digress. Now that US PMIs are good, that's all gone, right? So it's back to everybody wants to buy. Hold on. So if everybody wants to go long, that kind of causes some problems, right? You're going to see a lot of chasing, so it's going to be hard to get filled on limit orders on the buy side. But it also could mean that you will see stop runs where it's like you get in, they'll move down against you, and then you're like, so you stop out, and then it goes up where you wanted it to go, anyways, right? So for this one, I really want to try and hold that initial position that I had because of its propensity to run and knowing that the further along this goes, the more, FOMO we're going to get, and you're going to get, a lot of bad positions. So I don't want to mess with that unless I'm going to use like, I could be taking off one contract and using that to scalp a little bit here and there. I could do that. I don't really think that'll be necessary though. Mm. Joy is just saying the American public should be able to vote by mail. Yep, see, you're gonna get this kind of stuff. I was hoping that I wouldn't come back on me that much, but they're gonna make it a tough trade. So I'm seeing a bit of what I saw yesterday where there's enough profit taking on the upside that market makers might have completely taken their positions off. But when I was seeing that, they tended to continue going. Like I do think we could have a situation where new participants come into the market here. So let's see, especially if money starts coming in from Europe. Okay. Man, and look at the way that the I should have tried it on the treasuries instead. Nah, I think that the situation, the potential upside on the E-minis is way bigger. That sure was a dump in the treasuries, wasn't it? PMI soared to highest since January 2019. Those were like really strong PMI numbers. Mhm. Will you be bringing back any mail sorting machines that have been removed since you've become Postmaster General? And Louis DeJoy says, there's no intention to do that. They're not needed, sir. So you will not bring back any processors? They're not needed, sir. Hmm. Well, this is going about exactly how you would expect it.
Live action says appears to be setting up faux contested election.
Yeah, I hope not. The polling has reversed so dramatically. So what was something that I found really interesting yesterday was so Joe Biden gave his speech at the convention. And I think it was Fox News's Chris Wallace was saying, "Oh, the Donald Trump campaign set a really low bar for Biden, and that was like one of the best speeches I've ever seen Biden give." And it was really great, and I think that that's going to be really beneficial to Biden. That's what Fox News was saying. And Jake Tapper was saying, "But who cares what Jake Tapper thinks?" But they were basically pushing that Joe Biden's speech was really good. Okay. And then I go over to the Donald, and the article on Breitbart.com is that Joe Biden made a gaffe. He said, "There's nothing that we've been able to do that we haven't done together." So he kind of a word, and it's kind of a funny gaffe when you read it. It's like, yep, you're right, Democrats. They're even with all of you together, you've never been able to accomplish anything. You know, it was like that's the gaffe. And I think about it, like which one of those is more likely to stick in people's heads? Probably the gaffe. If the Republicans are able to effectively get it out there and spread and pick up traction and everything. Otherwise, it probably ends up being a wash, you know? But it was just so interesting how different, there's really two completely different worlds out there, And to see the polling come back so quickly and everything, yeah, it's going to be a slog every step of the way. Hence dismisses QAnon conspiracy theory out of hand. That might lead to some interesting stuff later. Okay, so we get U.S. existing home sales now at the top of the hour. Ooh, these bonds could get destroyed because, well, the estimate is 15%. Oh boy. And the 30-year in particular still has plenty of room to drop too.
RJ Wheels says I thought Harm's speech was awful. Talked about herself, talked about how the virus is racist. Identity politics at its best. People at home of all races are affected.
The virus is racist. But it did impact African American communities more. Okay, so
RJ Wheels says Harris
numbers
speech.
better than expected. The European consumer confidence was slightly lower than estimated. But these home sales numbers are great. I expected them to be good, but that's 24.7% existing home sales month over month versus an estimated 14.7. That's very bullish. The treasuries are just going to get slaughtered here. Maybe it really is. I should have just gone short the treasuries. One treasury, I would be making more, right? I think.
RJ Wheels says no, it attacked people of less means. So let's address that problem.
No, there's actually some evidence that because of there's some evidence that having more melatonin makes you more vulnerable to the virus. Then it also attacked people of less means, like um the places where it kind of got into communities were, lower classes. So there's that too. But my point was more if you were to look at each racial group and you were to look at how much they were harmed economically from the virus, I think that you would find that African Americans were harmed the most. That's all I'm saying. That's what I was really getting at. To call it racist is maybe silly, but it did harm the African American community more. And you know what? That matters from a public policy perspective, because if you're trying to
Live Action says and then they say go in the sun. RJ Wheels says I'm not denying that.
So if you're trying to look at where your public assistance is going to be the most effective, that matters. Middle class Americans don't need it. I'll tell you that much.
Rob MV3 Trader says so their numbers say. Uzi Knesset says, racism implies motive. The miracle the left worked is attributing motive to things incapable of having motives to begin with.
So did she actually straight up use the word that the phrase that the virus was racist?
RJ Wheel says Uzi right in.
Did she actually say that? If they specifically said the Corona 19 virus is racist, that's
Live Action says I am
violating their
such
own
a nit left
definition.
only one lot short 6E and long S.
In order for something to be racist, it has to be systemic discrimination. A virus isn't part of any
RJ
kind
Wheel
of
says she
human
said the
system.
virus has eyes.
It's not part of any kind of system, so you can't say that it's systemic racism.
RJ Wheel says and sees color. Or some shit. Uzi Knesset says I dunno, I didn't watch it, I'm just making a general observation. A black person could spend a lifetime making garbage decisions and wind up dead, and the left can attribute that to racism.
Sure. Well, because the left would claim that the reason that they made those garbage decisions is because society is systemically discriminating against them, and they have internalized that systemic racism, and that's why they make poor choices. That's their argument, right? I'm personally agnostic on that point. I don't think it matters. I think you can have everything working against you, but you just that doesn't absolve you of your own personal responsibility. You know, like this is something I don't think that liberals understand about the word personal responsibility. Because would anybody sit down and say, "Oh yeah, personal responsibility is important"? Okay, but personal responsibility means taking responsibility for your actions regardless of the circumstances, right? If you only had to have personal responsibility when the circumstances were favorable to you, then the whole point of personal responsibility would have no point, right? It would be a useless concept. Everybody can do the right thing when it's favorable to them, right? The whole thing that personal responsibility is about making the right decisions when it's tough. You know? If they pushed that idea, I think that it would help some people. Uzi
Knesset says ya no, if I'm destitute, I can stand on a street corner with a cardboard sign, or I can slaughter and rob a family of 5. What makes someone choose the latter? RJ Wheel says in the first month it struck senior homes. White people in those, blacks were calling it white people disease, and didn't follow protocols.
Oh, really? I mean, I never saw that, but you're right that it did mostly. I saw this survey, and they surveyed Americans about coronavirus statistics. And one of the questions that they asked was,
RJ Wheel says Uzi and go Floyd and put a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach.
Yeah, go Floyd. Oh my gosh. The way that you phrased that sounded really bad, the way that I read it out. I understand what you're saying. No, so they asked what percentage of Americans that have died from coronavirus do you think were over the age of 60? And people say, "Oh, I bet you it's pretty high. I bet you it's like 50, 60%, right?" No, it's like 92%. It's like 92%. Almost all of the deaths have come from people over the age of 60. Crazy. It seems to me, I'm a little concerned. I mean, I'm not an epidemiologist or anything. So maybe there's information that I'm missing, of course. But when I look at the statistics right now, it seems to me that protecting your vulnerable population, basically what you do to protect the elderly, the policies that you implement at old folks' homes or for older people that are living alone, matters way more than whether people wear masks or socially distance or any of this other stuff. because all of the deaths are from old people. The reason that New York has such a terribly high death rate is because they said, "Oh yeah, it doesn't matter if they have the coronavirus; they can still go back to the old folks, and they'll just quarantine them within the old folks' home." That's why it's so bad. That was just that one decision is responsible for the majority of the deaths. Crazy, right?
Uzi Knesset says you mean like any other year pneumonia has existed?
Yeah, I think that might be. I think that might be accurate. Um,
Matt says I'm in Victoria, Australia and we're in stage 4 lockdown and we're hitting around 200 cases a day. 90% of our cases are coming from
yeah.
aged care homes and also nearly all our deaths.
See, so I'm interested to see how this turns out because the narrative that I keep seeing from markets in particular over the past, like, let's say 2 or 3 weeks is, oh, the United States, they're taking on a lot
Vlad
of
Stoyanov
debt.
says TSLA moved quickly to lows, broke M and got dip bot.
Yeah, I bet. They're
Uzi
printing all
Knesset
this
says the thing that
money.
made COVID so bad is its infectiousness.
Yes, all of
The
that. Oh,
COVID
that's true.
doesn't kill people, the pneumonia does. The new, higher, infectiousness is why deaths are higher than normal.
No, I don't think it's just that. It's the hospitalization. Like, it's something like 10% of confirmed cases get hospitalized. I mean, that's really destructive. That's really destructive. And if you if the virus spreads too fast and you can't handle your infrastructure can't handle it, then that's a real problem. But with the way that we handled it, it seems to so let me go back. The narrative that I keep hearing is the United States is taking on all of this debt and they're not handling the coronavirus very well, and you should send your money to Europe. And so we've seen the dollar has been weakening and weakening and weakening and all of this stuff. And I keep saying, well, the dollar was strong. It had to come down, but that doesn't mean that it's going to go down forever. Well, now what we're watching, and you brought up Australia, which is where I think it gets interesting, or even more, or even better example, New Zealand. Like New Zealand, they literally have 12 cases and they shut the whole country down. Like it is, they New Zealand more than anybody else has taken the crush the virus strategy to crush the curve to the extreme. New Zealand. They had a huge they shut the whole country down once before to make sure that, the cases that they did have there were gone, and they shut down all travel. And now without they still hadn't opened up travel, but now they're shutting down again because there was like a dozen cases. And some people were saying, "Oh yeah, like I was seeing some liberals saying, "Oh yeah, like the US hasn't been handling this well. How come we can't have a real recovery like New Zealand?" And I'm like, New Zealand is under lockdown, dude. Like I could be wrong, but I have a really really hard time seeing how at the end of this that New Zealand is doing better than the United States. Okay, what the fuck? What the fuck? I don't see any news. That was fucking crazy. I have not seen something like that in a while. There's no news. Okay, well, so one thing I do see is that a lot of bids got pulled there. They like literally pulled all of their bids all the way to 33.80. That might have been some shenanigans. Dude, if that, well, I don't know. There might have been some news in an individual stock. You got anything for me, Vlad? Was there a stock that moved big? Not seeing it. Hmm. That is disappointing, guys. Oh, man. I was up like 150 and I only took 30 from that. Oof. See, now I don't know if it's going to go down or not. I just know that like now the risk is high enough that I just don't want to be in it until I know what's going on. Cuz that was nuts. So, I hate this market with passion. Well, I mean, I did kind of say, "Hey, it looks really good, but it'll be choppy." And it was. Frankly, it was. But that down move, that's fishy business. Holy crap. Like if there is not news, if that was not caused by news, that was just somebody decided to pull all of their orders, that is SEC better do shit. Cuz come on, that was insane. Look at that. Do you see it in the right-hand corner? I'm going to take a picture of this so that it's saved in the Discord. They literally pulled 5 handles worth of orders. Look at all of those hundreds that pulled. Zoop. What the heck? You're freaking out with a 0.7%. What are you going to do with a 5%? Well, if it was a 5%, I probably just would have gotten stopped out, huh? But I want to know what's going on. Can you tell it always really upsets me when I see action that is like clearly must be news driven and I can't find the news. I don't know what to make of that. They do bet on lower prices. Maybe it's option driven. I don't know. I mean, thing is, it's still in a location that I could potentially buy it, but did it happen at a specific time? It's already been 5 minutes. Wow. So it happened right about 8:11 my time. Hmm. I mean, I'm really tempted to just to get in, but since I don't know. Hmm.
Gary Rich says partly it's Gamma suck out and it's expiry Friday. Yeah. Vlad Stolyarov says no confirmation what it is, so I am ignoring it.
Yeah. I suppose anything's possible. We don't really know though, do we? I've certainly never seen a pull like that off of well, I don't know. Maybe I haven't. I've just forgotten
Uzi
about it.
Knesset says I wanna have a beer with it Gary Rich and have him crash course me on options slightly smiling face. Uzi Knesset says I need to get on the options game.
I don't think I've seen a move that strong. 5 points that I couldn't attribute a reason to it, you know?
Gary Rich says Gamma is coming off. Especially the SPY.
So you're already seeing it happen, huh? That's interesting. That guy went short. That's a little crazy. Oh, he said he did it at 757. Is it would that actually have given him that price? Oh, maybe. Okay. I mean, my temptation is it didn't mean nothing, and I can get long again. But probably I should just wait, even if it was nothing. We got like this counter trend period now, so that's not necessarily favorable to me taking another position. That was really wild. I mean, I've seen moves like that, sure. I mean, we see those all the time. I don't want to say all the time. It used to be that you would see moves like that all the time, right? Trade wars, definitely we would see things like that. Things way worse than that, frankly. And we see moves off of that, off of coronavirus numbers back in, May. Usually, though, 5 points, I'll go back and I'll see a reason for it. That one,
Vlad Stolyarov says TSLA trying to keep above VWAP 2060. I ignore bears now.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Pretty crazy. I guess is the only thing I can say. I wish I had something more insightful to say about it. Gary thinks that it's options. I mean, can you show me that at that exact moment that a lot of options gamma came off? Like can we show that there was like
says August thin
real
volumes. Tape can move with a light breeze.
well so that was not a light breeze. So first of all, we saw, about a dozen prices, almost all of the liquidity that was there completely pull. Okay. Well, 5 handles, we saw all of the liquidity completely pull. Second of all, we saw about 2,000 contracts worth of volume sell. So I wouldn't call that a light breeze. That was not like just some guy just decided to do something. Like there was a reaction to something there.
Vlad Stolyarov says pull the plug lol.
Yeah. I mean, if the thing is that if you pull all of your orders like that and you don't have like some news to do it, a bank wouldn't just do that. They would get prosecuted. There's no way like that. If to pull it for no reason or to pull it to get everybody to go short, like no. That is like that would be like the worst spoof case ever. Hmm.
Vlad Stolyarov says this might be an attempt of early high if everyone panics now.
Yeah. Well, we could try taking it short.
Plan B4 Trade says spoofing is widespread and only matters if it's an individual doing it. Say like Nav. Gary Rich says no, they wouldn't get prosecuted. The SEC allows this and gives special consideration rules for firms.
Well, okay, so like if it's trading around and a price gets hit and they pull the orders at that price, because they have the auto spread, they have these auto liquidity things that try and give them a good spot in line and things like that. But if they don't actually want to take it, then they pull.
Plan B4 Trade
Right.
says exactly like Gary says.
That
Firms
that
are
is
always clean winking face.
no, that is allowed for sure. But I'm telling you guys, I know for a fact if I
Vlad
was
Stolyarov says UVXC got 12K calls, 3K puts.
I know for a fact, okay, if I was at Goldman Sachs and I was trading and I went in and I intentionally pulled 5 handles worth of market liquidity in the E-mini and then sold 2,000 contracts, I would get fired. No questions asked. That would be the end of it right then and there. There is no way that a bank would do something that noticeable. No way. So I think that the theory that it's spoofing is probably very unlikely. Mm-mm-mm-mm.
Vlad Stolyarov says UVXC got 12k calls 3k puts.
Oh jeez.
Vlad Stolyarov says so everyone in option betting down.
No way.
Gary Rich says no you wouldn't get fired, that's what prop firms do.
Straight up, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, dude. You would get fired. No questions asked. I guarantee you. You can't just pull 5 handles for no reason. They try to they want to be as unnoticeable as possible. Like their whole goal is nobody can see what they're doing. That's their goal. They're not going to drop 5 handles. They don't do it. The bank doesn't do that. It's spoofing. It's illegal. And there's no way. Well, I worked at one too, and if they were pulling 5 handles worth of e-minis, then they should be in jail. And I'd be shocked that the SEC wouldn't follow that one. I mean, because they've been prosecuting people for spoofing. I mean, there somebody was prosecuted just this week. I'm going to bet you that the one that he was prosecuted for wasn't as bad as what that just was. What I don't understand is that you cannot remove all entire 5 handles with other participants joining as well. 1 handle, 2 handles, okay. More plan B for trade. Well, yeah. So like, I don't know. Here's when you look at the tape, you know, and you see all of those bids pull, that was like 150 in liquidity at each one. So you realize that there is some market maker out there that is putting 150 contracts of liquidity up at like every other price or something like that. So it's possible that sort of a thing, you know, it's possible that could have been all one person. Hey man, I moved blocks of shares you coded and programmed, not the same. Yeah, but what I coded and programmed was the algorithms that detected when people were doing that so that it couldn't happen. Right? Like if a move like that would probably trigger us an internal circuit breaker, right? Like that wouldn't just be that wouldn't just be something that like a trader does and then like nobody notices and it's not a big deal. Like there are people there that their whole job is to make sure that shit like that doesn't happen. No. You don't know what you're talking about, Gary. You can say that you did this and you did that, but what you're just saying is just absolutely totally false. And I think you're full of shit if you really think that you could just pull 5 things of liquidity and they wouldn't do anything. You're absolutely full of shit. You don't know what you're talking about. Straight up. Shut up. Seriously. Because what you're suggesting is just so ridiculous. Like I'm just telling you, like my job for 2 years was to create systems that would detect when these sorts of things are happening and stop them from happening and alert the internal watchdog people to alert them that something illegal was going on, essentially. Okay? This shit that happened with like the whale over at the London whale over at JP Morgan or whoever it was, I forget which bank it was, right? That happened and they created all of these systems to ensure that things like that can't happen. It is illegal. You can't place 5 handles worth of liquidity on the DOM with the intention of canceling it. You straight up, it's illegal. how many prosecutions with your firm based on your input? It never, we never, not never once felt like that. I can think of one incident where we caught something. It wasn't spoofing. I can think of a couple of incidences where an algorithm got screwed up. That could be an algorithm. They don't allow that. They definitely don't. You can't place 5 handles worth of liquidity with the intention of canceling. You can't. Well, they are moving up. They can do it without me. I just, I don't think I want to be in with things like that happening. Like I said, I think the reason why everybody says like, oh, firms can get away with it is because they have those the auto bid auto pull, right? So what they have is on their DOM, you say, oh, I want to put 50 contracts of liquidity at each price, and if it ticks down, it will say, okay, it's safe for me to offer 50 contracts. So it will add them on there for you. And then if you say, I don't actually want them, then if anything executes at that price, it will pull them. That's why what you will often see happen, it's really more clear to see here in the treasuries, where it's like, if anything starts trading here, you'll see a bunch of contracts pull, you know? Yeah, I guess it didn't happen that time, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, right? That's what they have. And so when people say, oh, the firms can spoof, that's because they have that auto bid thing. And so of course at every price you're gonna see a certain number of contracts pull, and so they say, oh, well, that's spoofing too. But that really isn't. But if you're coming in and you stick like 1,000 lot on there, and then as soon as it gets anywhere close to it, you cancel it, and you had never had any intention of it, trading, then that would be spoofing, and they can prosecute you for that. So what would the equivalent be over here in the E-mini? You just pull 5 handles of liquidity? Nah. How much is 5 handles in ES in dollars? It was the cumulative delta changed by 2,000. So I guess you could go and calculate how much it was. 5 handle drop is pretty significant though. Especially a market like this. Let's see here. I still don't see anything like directly in here, but so it's been about 20 minutes now. Mm-mm. Yeah. It's entirely possible that was a technical screw up. That's entirely possible, right?
Block sell.
Treasury selling there, 16.5. Do see, let's see here. Hold on. First of all, where was it? Oh, right, 811. Oh, there it is right there. It's just got such a big tail that it's hard to see. Interesting. Yeah, so when it happened, we saw the currencies flip around. Now the currencies are coming back in line. So now you're continuing to see like the euro fall and the everything from before that is starting to take hold again. Oh, I can go to the movie theater this weekend?
Sam T says okay, thanks, I did some calculations, it's massive pullout, I agree, it happened in like 5 to 6 seconds from what I was watching at the time on my screen.
Yeah.
Vlad Stolyarov says AMC is opening. Vlad Stolyarov says tickets should be nearly free.
So what are the movies coming out? Oh man, they've completely redone the Rotten Tomatoes page because there's nothing coming out. Mortal Kombat turns 25. That's funny. What are the two movies that are being released this weekend? Movie release.
Mahdi El Mesaudi says what's up man.
Hey, how are you? Welcome back.
Vlad Stolyarov says my area had classic Star Wars IV.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't see what the two movies are, but whatever. Places here in Utah have been showing the old classic movies, yeah. Kanye West drops out of race after Elon Musk offers him position as president of Mars. Oh, that was a Babylon Bee satire website. That didn't really actually happen. That would be hilarious. That's a hilarious headline though. Oh my gosh, Financial Juice is still going on with the Mike Tyson is on their team thing. Oh my gosh.
Live Action says oh no.
You go find Financial Juice on Twitter and you can watch the videos that they've made. It's kind of funny. Hmm. Okay, well, it looks like they've recovered. Suppose it could have held it, but or I suppose I could have when I was, talking like when I was most FOMO-y about it at 79. I guess I could have taken that on one contract and been fine. But it's okay. I had to trade. I had to cut it. It's profitable. Like that might be just fine for this week or for today.
Vince Vlogs says, what futures are you focused on at the moment?
Well, I've been focused on the E-mini futures right now. So S&P 500 futures. I'm always keeping them treasuries up there. Even though I'm just not as good at trading the treasuries. But I think that the treasuries are important to keep in mind. So let's still keep them up there and watch.
Plan B4 Trade says, these days, I feel that the idiotic approach is the way forward. Buy NASDAQ at open, no stops, and presto. It's insane. Vince Vlogs says, lol.
Right. It really is. Like, this is a thing that
Vince Vlogs says, appreciate that, thank you.
no problem. It really is frustrating sometimes watching it, where it's like you're watching people doing stuff that is just incredibly foolish. But right now they're getting away with it, you know? That's okay. That's what happens in a bull market.
Brandon Robbins says, do you set daily profit goals?
Not necessarily. I'm usually like looking for like $50 these days. But so there's kind of this thinking among retail traders that is like, okay, you have a signal and you take your signal, and the more times that signal happens and that you win, the more money you're going to make. But maybe if you catch it too many times, then you just want to be done for the day because you don't want to put the risk on or anything like that. I don't think of it that way. I think of it as, I think I know where it's going to go to, and I'm trying to make a trade that I think gives me the best chance of being able to hold it to that location. So to me, it doesn't really make much sense to have a profit target. Well, what matters to me is, man, I'm sorry, I'm having like hiccups and stuff. What matters to me is where it's going to go. In this case, I thought that it was going to go up to 33.90. So maybe it still does. And then I would start taking profits there and see what happens, Could go further. In fact, let's go take a look. I mean, they're moving up, so we might as well take a look at some of this stuff. I see 34. Oh, we could get to 3,400 today. That is assuming that there's not still like a piece of news out there lurking or something. Lots of buying at 27.5. Yeah, well, look, that's 5,000. I guess 5,000 isn't like ridiculous, but it's a pretty big iceberg, yeah. Makes you wonder. I mean, so, something that's happened to me before, or that I've seen before, is there will be a piece of news and it'll hit like one news squawk. And so you'll see a move when those group of traders see it. But then the other news squawks don't pick it up for like 30 minutes. And so it's like you recover, you think it's over, and then the news comes and hits later, and then everybody sells it. I suppose that's possible. I mean, that's super speculative, though. Huh. There's a story coming out right now that apparently Facebook has like a kill switch to be able to turn off political ads if there's like stuff going on disputing the election after the election.
Block by.
So basically, they're saying that Facebook is planning for the possibility of a contested election, and saying that they're not going to run political ads in that situation.
Plan B4 Trade says, IMHO. Focus on the process and not the P&L. The results will come. Keep batting, but it is hard to stick to it.
Because from my perspective, it's like, why is it that the market should give you, $20 or whatever it is that you set your target and your stop to? There really is no reason for it to do that. Just because that's what it's been doing in the past doesn't mean that that's what it's going to do in this particular situation. So that's why I'm way more interested in a location that I think that they're likely to go to. So 3390 and then 3400 are two locations that I think that bulls all very much want to get to. And then you just kind of have to figure out what's based on the conditions, what the best location to get in at is. Fortunately, we're probably past where that good location is. This is so weird that they're picking up this news. So I'm just hearing the news squawk talk about it more and more. You can see this stuff on Twitter. My lieutenants have started daily meetings about minimizing how our platform can be used to dispute the presidential election. A kill switch to shut off political ads after the election day, since the ads could be used to spread misinformation. They're planning to take steps should Trump wrongly claim on the site that he won another 4-year term. That's just like super crazy. But I guess prepare for anything. This is just going to fuel the conspiracy theories that globalists are planning on having a contested election.
Mahdi El Mesaudi says, but there are times where the market tells you to go and get the money easily.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think that that 5-tick poll was one of those? Because to me, when I was just trading pure price action, that would have been something like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but for some reason, somebody just pulled a lot of liquidity. They must have a reason to sell, so I think that we should sell it. But now I say I don't know what the news is, so I'm not going to bother with it. And since I would have taken it short, clearly that was the correct decision.
Mike Salisbury says, hey Seth, a quick about the pulling and stacking records on the top left of the screen. Did you custom build this?
Yes. I haven't done a whole lot on that. I'm so ADHD, guys. I have it. I give it to one or two guys to test. I haven't heard anything back from it. I've been using it for a while, so it works pretty solid. I'm thinking about making it available, but to make it available, I have to do all of this work, and I'm too lazy. I want to give it to you guys for super cheap, you know? Maybe what I could do is I could make a second Patreon or something like that. But I would, because I don't want to make a website, but I would also have to talk to Jigs or to Ninja Trader and set up a license sort of a thing, which is kind of funny, like charging a license. But I would give you all of it. I'd give you the histograms too, and I think that we could give it to you for a really inexpensive price, let's say less than $50. So, but I just haven't gotten around to it, I guess. I'm sorry.
Mike Salisbury says, I see. This looks preferable over the pulling and stacking in Jigsaw DOM.
I think so. Because the problem with the pulling and stacking in the Jigsaw DOM is that when you see it happen, you don't necessarily realize that that's what happened. Whereas with my indicator, it makes a sound, and it lists out the changes so you can see what was happening. You can see, you don't just see that, oh, okay, 400 have pulled now. You can see that there was one specific level 2 change that was 400. So I like it. Jigsaw, you can copy it if you want. If you're watching this, Pete, you want to copy it and make money off of it, go for it. I don't have a patent. You figure out how I'm doing it, and I'm sure that you probably know exactly how I'm doing it. Go for it. But I think that's something that you guys would appreciate, that has some value that I could sell, and we could make a good price for it. Then we could have something that, like, it'd be like an indicator that, like, literally everybody on NinjaTrader has because it's so cheap. That's kind of the way that I'm going. I think if I'm going to go for something like that, I want it to be like everybody gets it. It's like I said, you want to be the one other people are following.
Mike Salisbury says I would buy it. I'll buy anything though, lol.
You'll buy anything. Somebody was showing me a service that gives price levels that apparently what they've done is they'll take millions of data points, and somehow out of that they determine these significant levels that they'll trade at. And it was like, it was a pretty significant amount per month. I think that for like the whole thing, it was like $500 or something. It's like, whoa, okay, hold on. It was kind of funny because I was watching. They had a video, so I was watching the video for them, and this guy was like says all of the same stuff that I say. I was like, this is a little scary. He has kind of the same perspective as I do. Except for then he pulls out this, and I will give you the exact price levels that you should be trying to trade at, and I'll even tell you how to trade them and what the trade is, and just give it to you. And then I was like, no, it doesn't work like that. I was up there up until you got to the point when you tried to sell me something, and then you said something that was false. Or that I believe is false, at least. UK journalists following Brexit talks.
Mike Salisbury says Red Bridge Capital Guy.
Brexit deal. No. It was called. Well, this is what was it called? I'll let you know what it was called because then you guys can go and look it up. Day Trade Like a Pro. It's called Day Trade Like a Pro.
Mahdi El Mesaudi says, do you think that the VWAP is a powerful indicator? Do you use it?
So I do believe that the VWAP is a powerful indicator. I don't use it a whole lot anymore. So the thing that you're going to find with the VWAP is the way that we trade when we're above the VWAP is different from the way that we trade below the VWAP. And when I would going and doing backtesting strategies, if I set up multiple scenarios for my strategy so that it reacts differently based on whether we're above the VWAP or below the VWAP, I'm almost always able to pull out another 10% or so edge out of it. So there is definitely something to the VWAP, but on its own, it's not really all, again, it's not predictive. This idea that you can just wait for it to come back to the VWAP and it's going to bounce off of it, it's nonsense. But it does tell you some important things about the market, and I do think that it's useful. And the way that I use it is just that on my DOM, the orange price here is the VWAP. So I know that we're above the VWAP, but I don't really watch it a whole lot. Well, they're still kind of trucking along here.
Mahdi El Mesaudi says thanks man. Brandon Robbins says I recently finished No Bees Day Trader beginner course. Do you know if the intermediate course is worth it?
So Brandon, the way that the intermediate course works, because I did get the intermediate course, I haven't taken the webinar, but hold on a second. Basically, so his thing really is the course. So it's like what? It's 2 weeks and you watch him trade and you can ask him any questions that you want. And that's really his main product, right? And what he did was he created the intermediate course for those people that really can't afford the full webinar, but still want more. So there is, you get a couple of other videos and you get some other information like about the spread and things like that. Um, I personally didn't find it that significant. Like it's like supplemental information, but it's not like, there's something in the intermediate course that if you know really makes a difference in your trading that's not in the beginner's course. There really isn't. So my recommendation to you would be, now that you've done the beginner's course, trade for a while. And then if you're still having trouble, maybe you could come back to the intermediate course, or you could try the webinar. Or, my recommendation is that if you're having trouble, try incorporating the fundamentals more into your trading. Try to trade more based off of news and fundamentals and sentiment than rather than any particular level 2 signal that you think you're seeing. Yep. Mm-mm-mm. This freaking Facebook story is going to be like all over the place. They're planning for when Donald Trump tries to be a dictator. You can tell anytime I see a story about that, it gets me a little like uppity. Trump administration signals U.S. firms can use WeChat in China. Sure. Well, so I do see that the 5-year was able to break up above that huge iceberg that they had, right? And that's looking pretty thick. Actually, all of the treasuries look pretty like fairly thick and stuck in the middle, but most particularly the 10-year, which I find very curious. Cool. So let's see, here's somebody at 33.8750 pulled on that. See, so that's one where I'm like, okay, 125 pulled at 33.8750. That might have just been an auto liquidity robot that knew that it was going to get executed and pulled just before it got traded. That's probably what that was, right? And my understanding is that's totally allowed. And I mean, that happens like every tick, so of course it must be allowed. Treasuries tick up with the equities on that. I am starting to detect a hint of maybe some dollar weakness coming in. Might support equity prices more. I don't know. That was an okay break of the highs, but I kind of would prefer that they would go a little bit further on that one. Blake raises 6-year-old Kern girl's foot as she slept in her bed early Friday morning. Freaking in Utah, Kearns is the ghetto. There's Kearns and there's Rose Park. And there's not really anywhere in Utah that's like true ghetto, but Kearns is pretty nasty. I used to live over in that area. Did not like it.
RJ Wheels says VWAP is one-eyed king in the land of the blind.
Oh yeah, for sure. something that I find interesting is I used to be really big into the VWAP, and I made a bunch of videos. I made a video about why I thought it was great. And then I saw all these equity traders pick up VWAP, and all of the equities traders think that VWAP is like the god of all technical indicators. But I look at it and I'm like, yeah, but like I've used it and it's not, it doesn't tell the future. So,
Mahdi El Mesaudi says, how was your trading for today so far?
well, you know what? I was able to do pretty good on the PMI and I had a good trade. And then this big spoof came in and took away all of my profits. And I've been salty ever since. Dang.
Mahdi El Mesaudi says that's sad.
Yeah, it's sad. It upsets me. And then after I got out, it did end up going up there, which is like, ugh.
Mike Salisbury says, wow, lumber is over 800 now.
Oh, I'm actually just seeing people posting on about lumber. It's interesting. Well, I mean, when you look at those housing numbers, yeah, those gonna be good for lumber, huh? It's kind of everything is just kind of perfectly in line for them, isn't it? Well, now we're kind of into this action that I just hate, where it's gonna pressure me until I give up, and then they're gonna turn up.
Ace Trades says, got a guy in my room who is in love with lean hogs. We took a look at it, it is pretty steady each day. Weird.
Yeah.
Mike Salisbury says, Sept to January lumber spread still 122 PT spread, pretty insane inversion.
Oh, really? 122 points? That sounds like a lot. Shit. Well, I could still take another one. I don't know if it's really worth it to me. And frankly, maybe it's a short.
RJ Wheel says, I've looked at hogs. It's very trade pattern heavy. I like it. Mike Salisbury says, hogs looked pretty trendy lately off the open. 1 minute orb looks like it would have been working well.
Oh, opening range breakout. We should go in and program one of those, huh? That's what we could have been doing today instead of getting jerked around. I mean, I made money, but yeah, I'm so salty, guys. Oh my gosh. Mm. 30 minutes. Oh, what are you doing in 30 minutes? She wants me to take the baby. Uh, okay. The problem is that I will only be able. I'll only have them for
Ace
30
Trades
minutes.
says baby time.
I think that they're gonna go sit on the floor because I have, like working. Have to get off, so it wouldn't really benefit her a whole lot. She'd be able to sleep for 30. Another power nap. That wouldn't be healthy.
Ace Trades says when he is married and you haven't seen him for 2 weeks, 30 minutes will seem like heaven.
No, it's not that. It's that it doesn't help her, right? Because basically what I was saying is that if you give him to me now, I'm just going to come back and wake you up again in 30 minutes. I know you want to see the baby so bad.
RJ Wheel says I have a funny story about pork bellies. These two
Oh.
neighbors I knew traded pork bellies. They also happen to be fat. One day in front of my wife I said to them, "Hey girls, how's your pork bellies?" RJ Wheel says my wife freaked out.
Oh, that's funny.
Mike Salisbury says lol.
That is classic, yeah.
Ace Trades says at RJ Wheel lol. That's classic. RJ Wheel says which ended up embarrassing her.
Well, but that. I still want the 90, to be honest, but
RJ Wheel says ex-wife now.
I'm concerned that it'll just be kind of like choppy for the next 30 minutes, and then after we leave, then they'll take off and they'll go up. They'll have a close into the 3400 or something like that. U.S. Gulf states could be slammed by rare double tropical
Ace
threat.
Trades says at RJ Wheel wives are like waffles, you have to throw the first one away.
What? Wait, what? Where did you get that one from?
RJ Wheel says but we still laugh over that when we talk.
Wait, are you on your second? Why would you say that? If you're on your first. I learned something about Ace. Oh my gosh.
Ace Trades says that first waffle, it's not really great.
Yeah, usually you burn the first waffle though. Like
Ace Trades says not on my first.
Usually it's your fault that the first waffle is bad.
Mike Salisbury says Ace, is your room free?
It's okay, you can talk about it, Ace. I don't endorse any rooms. And if anybody else comes in
Ace
here and
Trades
tries
says
to
that Mike
promote a room, I'll
Salisbury
ban
not
them.
only no, but hell no.
But since Ace has been a longtime friend and everything, if you guys want to know where he's at, he's more than free to tell you where it is.
Mike Salisbury says copy.
But it is a paid room. So Ace, were you watching when we had that 5-handle drop? Did you? Because I was long and I saw that and then I decided to get out and I'm still salty about it.
Ace Trades says nope, not going to go into it. It's worth it, but my overlords are crazy.
Yeah. I don't even remember what the name of it was now.
Ace Trades says I was in when PMI came out. Cha-ching.
Right? So you got out. You just got out
RJ
after?
Wheel says will you say the name at least?
You moved your stop up and got out at the right spot. See, I was looking for it to go to 33.90, so I was looking for 10 points, and then 5 handles. Bee. Okay, so
Ace Trades says at RJ Wheel not comfortable with it. The whole Vinny and Seth thing.
oh jeez. Yeah, you don't want to. He doesn't want to attract bad attention to his.
Ace Trades says my friendship with Seth is way more important.
So apparently the Postmaster
RJ Wheel
General.
says K.
Postmaster General will send a letter in September on election voting to every U.S. citizen. Yeah. Well, we've always the rule has always been that like I'm willing to work with platforms and brokers and the people that traders need to interface with to trade, but that I'm not interested in promoting like indicator other people's indicator packages or other people's rooms. So when there's been some people that have been trying to promote another room in our Discord, and it's just been like a complete mess. And so Ace is saying that he's going to stick to that rule, even though I'm not forcing him to be held to it. But he's right. It's probably best that we just keep it consistent. Huh? Otherwise, people will whine. Well, how come you let him promote? Because he's not an asshole. That's why.
Ace Trades says at RJ Wheel they sell indicators in a trade room. And the indicators are pretty good, but not anything super special. Ace Trades says I am an asshole, just not about this. Lol.
Okay. Thanks. Oh man, I need to sell. I'm so lazy. Maybe I'll have some time this weekend. Get a website together. We can talk to Ninja Trader and get something out to you. In September maybe. Do you think that I would actually work hard on something over there? I
RJ
work hard
Wheel
on the
says or
chicken
not.
coop.
RJ Wheel says I'm not in market. Was just curious if I know them. Hit me the name in private Discord.
Gotcha. That's why I'm like, it's okay if you just say the name of them, because I'm sure that the guys would like to know where you've been. Okay, that's looking a little better.
Ace Trades says at RJ Wheel I am not smart enough to get in private Discord. It's like a maze I can't solve.
No, it's perfectly. You click the link in the video description, and that's pretty much it. Oh no, I take that back. You have to verify your phone number now, huh? Maybe I should take that back off, but you know what? It's been so much better since we did that. So the Discord doesn't grow as fast, but less spam.
Ace Trades
I'm all
says then
for
it wants an email, and then where do you go after that?
Yeah, you have to get an email, and then you have to verify your phone number. But once you've done that once, you already did that once. So it should just be you just click the link and you'll be in. Oh man, really?
Ace
Gonna be
Trades says
like that,
last time I got into Discord, that hedge fund manager was crying about how he lost everyone's money like his ship sunk.
Oh, I don't remember that. Somebody told me a story about some other trader guy that he had sized up, let's just say, and he had like $100,000.
Mike Salisbury says the Nat Gas guy.
And
Mike Salisbury says that was awesome.
I don't remember that. Huh. Oh geez. Anyways, this other guy, he lost it all on Tesla and
Mike
Kodak.
Salisbury says so funny.
$100,000. Obviously, this individual not very good with risk management.
Block by.
Ace Trades says at Mike Salisbury yes, and Seth talked about it how he had shorted and been way over margin.
What was that? What's
PRT1 says Mike Salisbury, are you a Canadian? Mike Salisbury says yes, Vancouver here.
Well, the price action in the E-mini is
Mike
getting
Salisbury
pretty
says
random.
found the crying video for you, Seth. Ace Trades says come on, Seth,
Oh,
remember,
I do
he talked
remember
about how his
that.
investors were like family, and he had run the family boat aground. Mike Salisbury says. PRT1 says did you live in Powell River?
Well, the way that Ace presented it, it made it seem like he was in our Discord, but it was just people in our Discord were posting videos about it. I remember that. I do. Yeah, that guy. Interesting one. I wonder what happened to them. That I bet you we're going to go back and find that they started another fund or something.
Mike Salisbury says nah, I didn't at PRT1. Ace Trades says I knew it would come back.
So this one guy that I heard was, had lost a bunch. He was like, okay, so I'm going to start a new subscription service because I need the money. Like, I don't even have money to pay rent and stuff. And I'm like, so first of all, you had $100,000 and you didn't put some of it away. But then second of all, it's like, so you just lost like $100,000 and people should pay you for a subscription? It's like, what?
Mike Salisbury says he has a book on options selling. I took it out from the library after The Dude That Blew Up. Idea was naked selling options. Knew someone else who followed this and imploded as well.
I bet. Well, so many. This is something that I find so interesting. Do I say that too much? When I say this is something I find so interesting? No. One of the things that I think about a lot is what I'm trying to bring up to you. Like this is something that I've spent a considerable amount of personal time thinking about. Is most retail traders fail. And right now, you wouldn't know it because when you go on Reddit and everything, it seems like everybody's making money. And one of the things that I find is that the people that seem to do well and seem to claim that they're making a lot of money and then turn around and start selling courses and stuff are very often using strategies where they're risking a lot of money. And the reason that they did well was because they put on so much risk that they just never got caught, basically. So you never get caught, and then you become famous by telling everybody to just follow your high risk strategy, and then you all blow up. And I see this happen over and over and over again. It's kind of crazy. It's like all of the methods that retail traders are trying to use to trade don't really work, and so they eventually they'll stumble into methods that are basically taking on excessive risk. Because it's the same thing with all those guys on Wall Street bets. Like, remember that story about that guy that he had like a few $1,000,000 that he had made, and then there was that one day that Robinhood was down and he lost it all.
Ace Trades says speaking of money, my overlords are wanting me to use OBS and Twitch to stream, instead of GoToMeeting. It looks to me like there is a 6-second delay. Have you run into that?
So, if you stream to Twitch, I'd say that the delay is probably more like 3 to 5 seconds. One thing that you can do, uh, there's a setting that you can do in your output streams that will basically speed up how fast you transcode, and then that kind of helps. But there's still going to be a certain amount of latency just from Twitch. Um, It seems to me that Twitch has a little bit better delay than YouTube, but I think with us it's about 3 seconds, 3 to 8 seconds, depending on you and how much you've buffered. Um, I used to double stream to both Twitch and YouTube, and I stopped doing so because I thought that the guys that we were finding on Twitch were idiots, and it was working way better to you do it on YouTube, and I don't regret it. There are a lot of things about Twitch that you can make money from tips and stuff like that, but I think overall I'm doing better because I shook off Twitch essentially. Well, these will be paid guys, so I don't have that problem. Oh, well, because you can do what you can do on Twitch is you can um subscribe to people. So you can say, okay, if you become a premium subscriber, then you can watch our subscriber only streams. And yeah, maybe they want to do it that way. You can do that on YouTube as well, but you have to have 10,000 people to do it. Mm-mm. Mhm. I know sometimes I sit back and I'm like, maybe I should just stream only on Twitch and only post one-off videos on YouTube. Maybe.
Ace Trades says we have had less folks show up. I think it's because it's summer. He thinks it's just me running it into the ground.
Oh, it's
Lol.
you're totally right. Like look at if you go into our Discord, hardly any activity for the past week or two. And what you will find is that when September comes around, like a whole new group of people comes in. Yeah. There's this time of year, there's just not a lot of activity. Yeah. And when September comes, like yesterday Alligator showed back up, and we hadn't seen him since March, I think. Right? So, and what he does is he watches the markets for these next 2 weeks to get back into the swing of things, and then he starts trading after Labor Day.
Ace Trades says they
Yeah.
sell a ton of the software, but not a ton of people in the room.
Well, that's why a lot of rooms are so expensive. Because it's like you only get a few people that actually end up going into the room, and the amount that you charge doesn't seem to have any impact on whether those types of people will subscribe. So you might as well increase it if that makes sense. It's kind of that premium method.
O Trades says well there is other chat on YouTuber that trades futures that are pretty lit.
Oh, I'm sure there are. I know of one guy in particular that was fairly, I don't know. I don't think that he had as many subscribers as we did, but like a lot of people were talking about him for some reason. There's a thread about him yesterday on Reddit, and it was all negative. They were all like, he's just a walking advertisement for Top Step Trader, and he has poor risk management. I was like, okay, well, I'm not amazing. I I I I I don't know how to present it to people, But I'm always like, don't follow my trades. Like, consider this for entertainment. You know what I mean? Like, that's my take. Like, sometimes I do well and sometimes I don't do well. And past performance is not indicative of future results. So even though I've done really well here this past summer, like, I'm just stunned at how well I've been doing and I don't believe it for 1 second. I might absolutely totally suck in September, you know? It changes. And so I try and intentionally drive people away from the idea of, oh yeah, just go and watch Seth and do what trades he does and you'll learn how to trade and be really great. No, I don't. Like this, think of it as like entertainment, and there's lots of things that you'll learn about the market along the way. But I would prefer to be more well, and maybe we talk about a lot of serious stuff, but it's still entertainment, you know. And yeah, I read that thread. People were pretty against him. Yeah, I was surprised because I had seen when there were earlier threads. I've seen a lot of threads lately on both the day trading subreddit and the futures trading subreddit that were like, who are YouTubers that you watch? And like those guys would get mentioned, but I wouldn't get mentioned. And I'm like, oh man, nobody loves me. Or maybe my viewers just aren't on Reddit, but I wasn't getting a whole lot of mentions. But it's okay because we don't necessarily have to be popular or want to be crazy popular. But so I know that there's that one. I've also seen a bunch of YouTube channels that, like, frankly, I really cannot figure out how they're so popular. Like, there won't be anything. You won't have a guy you're talking to. There's not like a webcam or a voice or anything. It's literally just like a chart. And these chats are like there's like tons of people in the chat and stuff. And I don't know how they do it. I'm like, why is that? Maybe it's just me. Maybe if I just sat here and never said anything and didn't show my face and didn't say anything in chat, it'd all be great. But because, sometimes I share my political opinions and things like that, I'm chasing you all. That must be it. It's got to be me. That's okay though. I'm okay with that. Yes. Ace.
Ace Trades
we
says
got
come
5
for the
more
trading,
minutes.
stay for the baby. Gary Rich says at Mike, have you read how they blew up his management? Courtier and Gross were making $2 million on just fees.
Oh, jeez.
I2 Yanth Great says nah man, you just don't have the gimmicks to bring in dumb viewers.
Right. Well, that's always been my main theory, is that I don't think that my stream appeals to all of the people that are in it to get rich quick. I think that to be popular in this sort of a thing, there has to be a little bit of telling people what they want to hear. And what do people want to hear? People want to hear that you don't have to work hard, that you don't have to know what's going on. Just watch this chart and take the trade when the chart tells you to, and you'll make money. That's what people want to hear. And I explicitly tell people that that's a pipe dream, and they don't like that. Because whenever I post on the subreddit, I get downvoted so much. Because I always tell, when people are struggling, I'll say, well, try incorporating fundamentals into your trading more. And then I get all these people, no, trade news doesn't work. Okay. I mean, you're all trading technicals and you're not doing very well. Ever since I've been basically nothing but news, I've been doing great. So, whatever. More viewers comes with more trolls. Yeah, although I think to some extent that just has to do with what kind of person enjoys watching me. And I don't think that a troll would enjoy watching me. You could dual stream to Twitch and you'd get more viewers, though, more discoverability, the better for your case. No, actually, no. I mean, I think you're on the right track, Ryan. But what we found when we streamed to Twitch was that, first of all, streaming to Twitch doesn't give you any added discoverability at all. Twitch has awful discoverability. So we really weren't picking up a whole lot of people from discoverability. YouTube has great discoverability. Well, and then the other thing that we found was that when people would come in on Twitch, they would see that I was dual streaming and that there was more people watching on YouTube, and all moved over to the YouTube side. And then the people that we did find that would come in from time to time always just ended up being idiots. So I was like, I don't want to stream to Twitch anymore. I mean, but it kind of, the thing is that there's one thing that Twitch has that I want to try. Twitch has the gamification, right? So on Twitch, it's like when you participate in the stream and you chat, you get emoticons and they give you bits, and you can use the bits to buy more stickers, or you can use the bits to buy a subscription, and every creator can have a subscription, so you guys could all say, "Oh yeah, I like you. I give you $5 a month." And then what people, you can give subscriptions, so somebody can come in and they'll say, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to give, you know, all 10 of the people that are watching the, well, we got 26 people. All 26 of you will get a free subscription for the month. And then they get the subscription and they like the person even more, and so then, they want to continue the subscription the next month after that. And they have this, you can uh, tie it in with Amazon, so you have a free one that you can give every month. So like there's a lot of gamification that you can use to make money off of the stream that I think not only would be nice for me, but would be fun for you guys. But then at the same time, I'm like, is it worth it? Because to me, I think that in the end, the YouTube channel is infinitely more valuable. There's so much discoverability over on. I'm not going to get to 3,000 subscribers on Twitch. No way. Not without basically, I would have to switch over to a model where it's like I make a video every week on YouTube and I tell everybody to go over to Twitch to watch the stream, which doesn't make any sense. Why push them over? Why not just say, "Oh, and I stream here, so just subscribe." Works out way better, right? Trading is a game, it's a natural fit. Yeah. I'm a Twitch power user, so I don't know. I'm an outlier. Yeah, I don't know. But then the other thing is that when I was doing that, hold on. I was just getting some news. Um, I don't think that I ever had more than 5 people watching on Twitch. And I think that the maximum we've ever gotten to here on YouTube without like some sort of crazy special event has been like 50 or 60. Gross in Ohio. You remind me of there's this person. I was told a story and I tried to find information about it online and I couldn't find it. But there's this guy named Woody, and apparently he is well known within the trading community, and he developed an alteration of the CCI called Woody's CCI. And he had a really popular trade room at one time that they were all trading the Woody CCI. And eventually they found out that him and his moderators were basically taking the other sides of all of their trades. They were fading the Woody CCI and making money off of their subscribers, and then the room fell apart. You believe that? But that was the story that I was told, and when I tried to find supporting evidence online, I couldn't find it. But the thing that you were talking about reminds me a lot of that. Yeah, a really quick way to get a lot of discoverability on Twitch is to do a couple of duo streams with your friend, the stock guy. I love that guy. I mean, he's not really to be honest, I don't really enjoy watching him all that much, but I think he's a great guy. And he practically is the stock section of Twitch. You're totally right. Yeah. I don't want to tell you what to do though. No, well, I think you're giving good suggestions. I, you know, It's something that, I mean, you can tell it's something that I've thought about, right? I remember that guy, Woody, he was agent. Yeah, he's got to be like 80 now. Interesting to hear your side. I found you randomly and thought you were here just for the company and accountability. As for your trading, I have no idea what your positions are or when you take them. So, oh, well, yeah. So it really is mostly for the company. I mean, look, we do make money off of the YouTube advertisements, and I just put all of that back into it. So, but it would, I still want to build it up because the thing is like, hey, if the YouTube channel was, some of these people out there have YouTube channels that have like hundreds of thousands of subscribers. If I was able to build the channel up to that, then there's so much more that I could do, right? I wouldn't have to have a day job, and then I could spend that time writing more programming and stuff that would help you guys out. You know, is kind of how I look at it. Because, like one of the big holdups for me putting out some of the indicators that I've written is that I don't want to do the support. I'm going to give it to you guys, and then there's going to be some problem with it that I never encountered with it. And, that's kind of the thing holding me back. But, if the YouTube channel became really popular, then I wouldn't have to deal with those problems anymore. And you can tell what my positions are. You just have to know what it looks like on the DOM, right? Man, so now it's 9:30. I think that I just gonna have to scratch this. But you will see. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I should have explained this first. Yeah, what you'll see is the price right here will be a color, and then you'll see this column will populate with, how much money I make at each one. So then you could see where my positions are. But I don't necessarily always say something when I'm doing it. And I don't always fully explain what I'm doing because I don't necessarily want you guys to completely know. But not trading channels don't know any big trading channels. You would be better filming trains and putting them online, my dude. Yeah, right. You're totally right, Ryan. I've thought, what my kids wanted to do? They wanted to do mukbang, which is basically ASMR of listening to people eat. I watched this. It was like so freaking gross. Listening to a guy eat noodles. Nobody wants to hear that. These people had hundreds of thousands of subscribers. They're like, come on, Seth, all we have to do is eat stuff on the internet and we'll get popular. Well, okay. These guys had good editing and there was a lot of reasons why they were popular. But I don't want to be famous on the internet for eating food or for my kids eating food. No. Go find something worthwhile that provides value to people if you're going to become famous on YouTube. Freaking muck. It was so gross. Yep, ASMR. I definitely like hearing your opinion on the market. Your voice last message is a very calm and steady one. That's not really common with trader YouTubers. Yeah, because everybody's trying to get you hype. That's one of the things that I find so weird about it is that to me, the things that are actually going to make the channel more really popular, like there are things that I could probably do right now that would probably double or triple the number of subscribers, but they would be harmful to the traders. So I take the long and hard path, which is gotta provide value for you guys, I guess. Dip the rabbit in paint, slightly toss it at a canvas, stream it, and sell the paint. Isn't that animal abuse, Gary? And I don't think that the rabbit, she doesn't move. This rabbit, I don't think that this rabbit realizes that rabbits can jump. Well, I tell you what, I was in that trade for a long time and I could have taken at most 12 ticks off of it, but it just never went. But I could make paintings for sure. or when my wife could do that, that would be great. It's not like we are firing pigs out of cannons for now. Oh, we should do that. We can set my garage up to stream, and then my wife can paint in there and on the YouTube and or on the Twitch. It would be great. We'll do it when she's, not when she doesn't have a parasite attached to her burb 50% of the time. I shouldn't call him a parasite. He's been demanding. He's been pretty demanding lately. You took that short? Interesting. Interesting. Very interesting. I mean, I could have gotten 3 points from my long, but I was more like this right here, right? That's definitely true. There are a large portion of unique first-time viewers that will be toxic and never learn, but most of the time they leave, and some will listen and stay and change it to be less toxic. Well, that's true, but kind of what I was getting at was more that, like, there are certain things that you can tell people that are frankly false and won't help them become good traders, but will be popular nevertheless. So that's what I'm learning, is that most of what you get in trading education isn't because it's effective, it's because it's popular. And there's reasons why it's popular. It appeals to the human psyche, and there's a unique kind of psychology around this trading, because there's money involved and people want to make money. And so telling them that they're probably going to lose money, and that it's really hard, and that they have to put a lot of work into it, and that the kind of work that they're going to want that you're going to have to put into it is the kind of work that they're going to think is really boring, like reading financial reports and stuff like that, then all of those people that would have said, "Oh, okay, I guess trading's not for me." That's a lot of people, That's probably like 90% of the audience that comes in. And so if you started lying to people, then yeah, you could be 10 times more popular, but it would come at the cost of the ultimate goal of the stream, which is to be good at trading. Yep, true. Get rich quick, basically. Yep, and it's everywhere. I mean, man, the YouTube advertisements, it's insane. It's insane. The more you demand from traders, the more they will pay you. I make my traders run 4 miles before the room opens up and wear a suit. Oh, man. Okay, so it's 9:41 now, so I think it's time for me to go. I don't know if the market's going to go anywhere. It's really, I don't know what to say. Things just did not turn out the way that I thought. I suppose that I could have, when we came in here, I could have bought, because I did think that we were oversold, but that's okay. I still came out positive, I think. Let's look. Wait, how did? Oh, I guess I did. I guess I kind of only just sort of came out positive. I forgot about that one. When was that one? That one was before the news, wasn't it? Yeah, just before the news. Had one, I got shaken out of it, and then I got this one, was super great. I can't believe that went 25 and then came back on me. So I wouldn't say that my trading was bad, but mistakes were made, I guess. All right, guys. But and the other thing is, I keep not saying this, but like, don't put risk on this week. Anyways, next week either. Jackson Hole, it's awful. It's not good trading. This is it's not a good time to put risk on. Okay, I'll see you guys on Monday, and in the meantime, stay profitable.